Hello, and welcome to episode 19 of Creative Collaboration Conversations with Veronica and Jillian. And I'm Jillian. This is my
And
friend
I'm
Veronica.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Jillian.
Hello.
How are you today? Ready for one
I'm
of
okay. I'm okay. I'm
we
okay.
are
I'm good. I'm good.
we are reaching the end of the year. So,
I know. I
how do you
know.
feel after almost 20 episodes?
Yeah, it feels like it went by in a blur. I remember when we first talked about this idea of, doing a podcast together, and then it took some time to get it up and running, and suddenly we're in a pretty good rhythm, and 20 episodes. We're just about at episode 20. So good stuff. It's been quite a process, and I feel like we have met one of our primary objectives, which is to kind of get to know each other a bit better. And so I
Yes.
feel like, yeah, we're on a roll with it. Everything else is gravy, as they say.
I do remember our first episodes, and we were like, what are we doing? How should we
Yeah.
structure it? What should we talk about? And everything, like if I'm listening now to our first episode compared to what we are doing now, is such a big difference. So thank you
Mm,
for being
mm.
in this journey with me.
Yeah,
And
likewise.
and for the topic for today actually is the year in review,
Mm,
because both of us as marketeers and businesswoman, we we are preaching, and I'm going to use this word actually. We put a big emphasis on the fact that we do need to take a moment and look at what happened,
mm,
analyze, improve,
mm,
say goodbye to what needs to be gone,
mm-hmm.
and in this way making space to new things. And as I do strongly believe, do do what the preacher says, not what the preacher is doing. So I don't want to, I don't want just to say it to my clients or to the listeners. And we are busy doing that as well. And I think actually, Gillian,
Mm-hmm.
you're more advanced in the process of reviewing your year than I am. I have to admit. But maybe shall we give some tips or help our audience how to approach it and what to do when it comes to reviewing your year?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. We should do that. So I feel like straight away I'm gonna just reference something, but the link will be in the show notes. I have a friend Doreen, uh, who's fantastic. Has a very successful business. She's actually Dutch, but living in the U.S. now, and she has a really strong business and brand, and she's an amazing person. So I feel like that matters more. But she recently published a great framework that's very kind of approachable and simple, and yeah, very relevant to help people look at, think about where to start and looking at their year kind of in review is how I think of it. So I'm just going to include the link to that in the show notes. So just heads up about that. Um, I don't know. Do you have any tips or anything that you'd like to share about it? I guess the one tip I have is to do it. I should have said that. My tip is to
Yeah,
do it,
yeah.
and eventually to get into the habit of doing it. And as we've talked about in previous episodes, I think ultimately getting into a pretty regular cadence with it. I like doing the QBRs, the quarterly business reviews, for my own business and with clients. But if you're not accustomed to doing that, a good place to start is at least doing an annual kind of year in review. And as you start doing that, you realize it also can help to uh, kind of push some other processes into place, because it's a lot easier and just more time efficient to have some sort of a process that you're keeping track of things throughout the year, so that you don't sit there in December and feel like, oh my gosh, I have to go back over everything and try to remember and all of these things. So ultimately figuring out, what are, so I guess yeah, here I am like, oh, what do you think, Veronica? Now I'm like running on and on. So yeah, so it's do it, and then going through that process will also help you to identify what are your KPIs, what are the things that are important for you personally and or for your business to measure and to be able to kind of quantify. So I think those two things go together hand in hand, and those might evolve, over time, quarter to quarter, or every year, et cetera. So That's my opening tip jam for you.
I couldn't agree more, and it's very in line actually how we do plan the strategy, because you do like this is the big plan, and then you start breaking it down on smaller pieces per quarter, per month, per week, even per day. And actually that goes hand in hand, because it's depends a little bit how you approach it. How do you approach the overall strategy and implementation, and that will influence how you approach the review. Because if you do it like that, how I just described it, and it's very in line with what you described, then it's easier to go to each segment and see, okay, I did X, Y, Z, and these are the results. Like a perfect example, the online networking with the spin event that I'm running. So we did different changes over the quarters of the year, and promoted it differently, and it's very easy for me to go and see the data and see what worked. Was it better at the beginning of the year, where we basically did the same thing that we did for 2 years, whereas starting the middle of the year we changed quite a lot of things, even took a longer break for the summer. So for example, we had an event yesterday, and we promoted it slightly different, and we used some AI tools to share it and invite people, and the result was amazing. So definitely a lot of learnings from our side, what we need to take and what we need to say goodbye to, because that's the whole thing. Is not just to take and do more and more and more, and I feel we tend to do that. What I want to emphasize when you do a review of the year, or actually any review, one of the most important things is not what worked, but also what didn't work, because that will give you a lot of information. What do you need to let go, or where do you need to work to improve things? And we do tend to focus on what is working, because it's human nature, right? It makes us feel good. It makes us feel visible and wanted, and it's normal. But in my perspective, if you really want to grow, you need to look at what is not working, because
See, this is why we're doing this. I think this is amazing, because I'm listening to you. I'm like, wow, I actually see it completely different, or I experience it completely differently. Because for me, I am like, my default is to notice all the things I didn't get done this year, or all the things that are not working how I wanted, and all of that. So for me, going through this exercise of doing a year in review, with a kind of a directive to identify the positive things, like the building blocks, the traction, the momentum, any of the positive things, is a really helpful way for me to help feel good about what I did and to help propel me forward. So I'm really glad that you said that, because I can't be the only one, or maybe, but probably not, out there that has a different kind of wiring or a different approach. So I'm glad we're having this chat.
Definitely not. And I'm like, we are so different and the same in the same in the same time, but it's you always have two. It's like a coin, right? You have two facades of each story, each situation, including the yearly review, including the business. And of course you're going to have good things and bad things, but again, it's, you mentioned the KPIs. What do you want to learn? What do you want to measure? What do you want to take forward? And of course you do need to celebrate, and that was very hard for me actually to celebrate, because and here I think we are very, very similar for culturally as well. It's a given. You need to succeed, and you need to make good things, and you take them kind of for granted long term, because yeah, of course they do that. And I learned to actually stop and say, I did that, and I should be proud of it, and I need to take a moment to acknowledge it and be grateful for the people that helped me, and for the knowledge I gain, and for what we created together. And then we can actually be a little bit I'm going to use the word critical, but maybe it's not the best, but just look and see, okay, what wasn't as good or as powerful or as I intended it to be, and why that happened. And there'll be many reasons. Maybe our theory or hypothesis wasn't the correct one, or maybe there were external factors that we didn't consider. And let's be honest, we do live in strange times. Look at the wars that are taking place, economical uncertainty, social changes. There are so many things that influence our day-to-day life. And this is actually another thing that when you do a year in review, people tend to forget, because they are really focusing only on their numbers But I do
Yes.
invite everyone to take into account the bigger picture, because when you are creating, especially I'm talking here about marketing strategy and the business strategy in your case and the processes, it's not that you're taking into account only what do you want, you're taking into account your audience, what they do, but also the economical
Mm,
and
mm,
social environment, right? You can't take that
mm-hmm,
out of the equation. So when you are
mm-hmm,
doing the review, that has to take an important has to be an important factor into that analysis,
mm-hmm,
because
mm-hmm.
you can do the same things, but if the climate is different, you'll have different results.
Yeah, be received differently. Yeah,
Exactly.
sure,
So what
sure.
worked 3 years ago and you it didn't work this year, you need to see why.
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I like that you use the word critical, but I also understand it can be a little bit feel like a strong word. So
Mm-hmm.
the other word I think about is being constructive. It's like
Oh,
the
that's a
idea of
better word.
yeah, it's like constructive criticism or constructive feedback. So just thinking about looking at our business or what we're doing critically, like constructive is another way to think about it.
I like that.
Mm. So do you have anything that you want to share? Any, like, as you look at your year in review, are there any highlights or things that, yeah, that you want to share that you accomplished yourself or with your business or your team or anything there related?
I think this year I decided to take a step back from the wheel, the hamster wheel, and that was visible with the we actually took a break from the ONS in the summer and came back with the slightly new format, and we played with it to see how we can make it better. We are in process of doing that with the business. For me, it was, I think I'm going to use the word reinventing.
Mm,
I feel we are
mm,
in a or transformational period. I think that will be
mm-hmm,
a more correct term. And it's very hard because so I launched Spin Ideas in 2017 in January. So of course you are improving each year, you're improving, and then you get to that, you have
mm,
the processes, and I created a methodology, and the clients knew me, everything was easy, and then you are like, I think, no, I think I know we had an episode, and I'm looking at you to say the number because I'm
uh,
terrible with that. The falling in and out of business. So definitely there comes a moment when it's not that you don't like your business anymore, but you're not in love with your business as
mm,
much as you
mm,
used to be. And
mm-hmm,
I think that happened to me this year. And I know we were
mm,
discussing, we are kind of in a similar position. And that, of course, is happening because of a lot of factors.
sure.
Either you do it for too long and you need something new to challenge you, or different personal reasons. There are so many factors to consider. Um, and that's the moment when you need to step down, basically, and be very critical. What do you want? And
Mm-hmm,
I figured out what I want, more or less, but I'm also realizing for me to be able to do it, I need to slow down. So for me,
mm,
that's December actually. So I'm kind of slowing down and looking at what brings me joy when it comes to
mm-hmm,
my work. How much do I want to externalize even more than I do? And that means, who else do I want to bring into my team?
mm,
And what do I want to create next year? So
mm-hmm,
definitely new events and new partnerships are already in place. Um, New businesses I want to work with, and new parts of the business that I want to launch. But I think an invitation that I want to make, everyone is trying at the end of the year to close more business, to do more, to more,
yeah,
more, more, more. Actually, I
mm,
want to invite everyone to do the opposite. How about if you stop? You stop and you breathe and you look at what happened from the
mm,
perspective of what we just shared. And then you
mm,
decide what do you want to move forward in your business. And this is basically where I am and what I'm doing. And that's very
mm,
new for me, I have to
mm,
say.
mm.
How about yourself?
So episode 16 is the one about falling in and out of love with our businesses.
Thank you. I know
So
I can count on you on that one.
yeah, just double check to make sure I was correct, but it is correct, 16. Yeah, so a lot of what you said resonates with me. As you know, I've been in that process as well of kind of reinventing myself, or transforming who I am, what I do. And I think a lot of that is because my footing also was quite different, right? So of course, coming out of the post-COVID world, I like suddenly was, but wasn't very sudden, but I was, a new mom, and then now I live in a new country and all of these things. Excuse me, I had a cough. So I understand that. And the other part that I have talked about, perhaps here or there, that you're also kind of alluding to, just the language I'll use to describe it, is that for me, parallel to all those significant life changes, my relationship with my business also became out of sync. And it took me a bit of time to realize that that's one of the things that was happening, is I felt like my business was becoming out of alignment with my personal values. So I've been on a very deliberate path to strategically dismantle my business and rebuild it in a way that's more proactive and more akin to who I am now and how I want to spend my time and the type of work I want to do and all of that. So a lot of what you said resonates. That being said, to shift the focus to looking at 2023, when the first thing that comes to mind in my year in review is that I'm actually wrapping up my first year in business here in the Netherlands, as far as being out there and building a new network from the ground up and creating opportunities. So I feel good about that. That's not like necessarily a quantifiable thing. It's just something that I've done. This is the first year I've been doing that. So I'm happy with that. And also this year I landed my first Dutch client, which was pretty cool. So that happened in Q1, which was Q1 this year. It was quicker than I had thought it would be. So I was really pleased with that, is just having the opportunity to kind of break into a brand new market and culture and language and all of those things. We didn't speak Dutch, but that's okay. But they were kind enough to speak English with me. Another kind of line item, if you will, is that I onboarded 2 new members to my team that both live in the Netherlands. So that happened this year. We have Tiana and Caroline. So I'm very happy for that, because that's one of the things I'm also looking to do. So we'll talk about that in a future episode about goals for the new year. So
Yes.
Anyway, onboarded a couple of people, and then just a couple of data points. So I had over 125 meetings this year to reconnect, or with new relationships, and 30% of them were with reconnecting with folks. Many of them, it's been 6 to 8 to 10 years even since we've connected. So really kind of re-engaging my existing network. So that's part, and then 70% are new relationships. So that was a good amount. Not quite where I need to be, but it was a good amount of meetings, I would say.
I must say I'm impressed. I never count how many meetings I had, but I'm super impressed with the fact that you keep track of that. That's next level.
I do. Yeah, it's that, but it's also, I pay attention to where the relationships come from. So were they referred to me or not, etc. And then what happens and how is it categorized? Is it just for relationship purposes, or there potential collaborations, etc.? So I pay attention to those things and look at which relationships are most energizing for me, and which ones have the most opportunity for me to contribute to, et cetera, et cetera. So I pay attention because it's important to be strategic. And I learned this because I built a pretty large network, and then realized the way I was going about it was not super sustainable. So then it forced me to become more process oriented and data driven around relationships, which I always fought, because for me, it's about the the raw relationships. It's not about any of those things. It's like the thing I wanted to protect the most, and therefore I had all individual relationships with everybody, but it's really hard to maintain that. In any case, so that's one of the things. And also I like to make sure people don't fall through the cracks, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, 125. And then I also pay attention too to the number of introductions that I made. So far it's about 30 introductions this year. I like to pay attention to those and then also follow up to see, you know, what the results has been. Are they still in touch? Are they not? Did they start a company? Did they not? Etc. So about that, let's see. I also created a beta group of business owners that I know for them to, they're basically testing some of my new material and content and messaging and whatnot so that I can better align what I think about things and how I see it, how I articulate it with what language resonates with them to make sure there's some alignment there. So I have a beta group helping me to crystallize my messaging and offers. Let's see, another big one for me was I earned my certificate from MIT this year in sustainability for industry. Yeah, so that was
a big one.
It was a big one. It's a turning point for me, and it was very humbling to step into an arena that I'm new in. I love to learn, but it's you know, going about it self-guided is one thing, but being in an environment with other people was like pretty humbling. And even I think trying to learn things as adults, sometimes it can be exciting and it can be yeah, humbling. So that's been my experience, but I'm very excited about it and have continued to build on that, you know, base of knowledge kind of thing. So the MIT shtick was a good one. And then I feel like one of the best things that happened in 2023 is we launched our podcast.
That's true. And not only that, actually, we are almost 20 episodes in, and I think we have over 160 downloads. And it's something we were praying, we were hoping for 100 people to listen, but actually we overpassed that quite quickly.
Yep, for
sure. I have to say, you just inspired me to look, you know, when I was saying that we need to be proud of what we did.
Yep.
I must admit, I'm much more clinical because I'm looking at the numbers from business perspective, the income, clients, and I'm happy to say like the clients actually stayed the entire year and things like that. And the revenue, it's keep on consistent and growing and things like that. But you just inspired me to look at my year from a different perspective because I'm always making introductions, at least couple per week. So I was like 30. Oh, I'm wondering how many I made. Like, thank you for that. That makes perfect sense, actually, thinking on how we are running our business and how we are building the relationships. Yeah, but I just realized
it's like where and how are we spending our time?
Yes, so true.
It matters.
But for me, it comes so organically that I never stopped to say, hey, actually, that's part of my business. For me, it's kind of a part of my personality.
Right.
So I get it. You don't really stay at like, wait, it is a part of my personality. However, it is a business performance, let's say, for the lack of a better word. So I do need to quantify it and see what is happening with it, right? But
I think so. Yeah.
So I'm learning new things. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see what else. I relaunched my business website, thejilliangroup.com. So there was a lot of work that went into that. So relaunched that just recently. And I launched another site for kind of personal development and professional networking at jillianvorce.com. So that also was quite a bit of work. So I've got those two sites up. LinkedIn wise. So my approach to LinkedIn, anyway, it could evolve, and I thought I was going to evolve it this year, but I've proven to be a little bit more stubborn around it than I thought I was going to, be. So this year I added over 300 new contacts on LinkedIn, but about 85% of them I've either had meetings with or I have meetings scheduled, upcoming meetings after the holidays with. So it's I still have kind of stuck to that approach with growing LinkedIn as far as people that I actually know. So perhaps next year I'll loosen it up a little bit and welcome more. But so far it's maintaining that very high percentage of people that are actual connections, relationships. So anyways, we'll see how that goes. And the last couple bits I can say are also quantifiable things. And to some people, to you, it might not be big. And to other people, it might be like not a big deal, but whatever. For me, it's a big deal that I published more blogs and social media posts this year than I ever have, probably combined. So that has been a tough nut to crack for me. So I need to continue to build on that. So I'm happy with that. I got into a pretty good rhythm with publishing content.
That for me, it's important, actually. That is something I'm quantifying and I'm monitoring. So that will be, so for me, yes, how many articles did I publish? Social media posts, the results, how people react, the events I attended. Like how many meetings did I had, like meetings with prospects, proposals sent, conversion rate. This is something I do follow as well, because then you know where to improve. But what you inspired me is actually, I never thought about that. Like we launched Spin Ideas France, and I never really mentioned, we launched the Spin Ideas Chrome extension that goes with LinkedIn and enables you to make quicker connections and grow your network by introducing, like tapping into your network to introduce you to other people. Things that for me, they are so, I'm not celebrating them. And I was the one saying we need to celebrate. But those are things that I tend to take for granted. And like, of course we did that. Like it doesn't make sense for us to mention it. Like I need to see.
I think so. I think it's about celebrating those things and then documenting those things, because all of us, when we're doing the thing, we think, it's like we imagine we're never going to forget this. But guess what? We all do. And then it's like, when did that happen? And so it's nice to have these data points. So when a spike happens in your business or all these things or whatever, you can kind of look back and at least have some inkling of how it happened and not just be a total mystery. It's, sometimes the universe can just open the fire hose. I mean, that was my experience of business, like, but it's really helpful to be able to have these kind of plots on the map kind of thing. So I think it's helpful.
Makes
and
perfect
also,
sense.
Business is more than just, at least the way I see business now, maybe not for everybody, but for me, business is more than just revenue. It's creating impact and how we spend our time and how we feel and how we make others feel and all these other things, the seeds that we're
choosing
planting.
From what point one, how do you want to work? And for me, that always, I'm saying it comes from the values, and that makes me want to work, that gives me energy, that makes me be creative. Otherwise it will be very depressing.
No, for sure. The last bit I'll say is, which again is like on that line between, is it business and is it personal? So I love to exploit that boundary, because to me they're both,
I agree.
So my last
when you have your own company.
It's like, it's a very blurry, swirly boundary there. Anyhow, so I completed a year as team lead in organization management for the TEDx Amsterdam team. So
that's a huge one.
So I'm really happy about that. It was actually my first kind of working experience here in the Netherlands. So for anybody, I feel like it's a very relevant thing. Learning, but for people that are trying to step into a new arena, new career, new trajectory, and or have moved to a new city, state, or country, volunteering is always an excellent way to go, because it's a great way to kind of dip your toes in and be able to contribute and help a community or help an organization, and also building new relationships and seeing, kind of testing your skill set and how it jives or doesn't, etc. So that was my experience. So I'm happy I did that and stuck it out for a year.
Good for you. Congratulations. And I can relate to that. When I moved here, so I used to have my own business, and I was like, I'm an entrepreneur, I want to do that again. And I quickly realized I don't know anything about this culture, working culture. So I was like, okay, I need a job. And the moment I decided, okay, enough with this, I need to go back to entrepreneurship, I did something similar. I became part of the Amsterdam American Business Club, the board of them, because that enabled me also to, even if I already was a member and had the connections, but also to work from a different perspective with them, to better understand the in and outs, and you're just, as you said, you have a different relationship and understanding. So Definitely,
Mm.
that's very good advice. And not necessarily if you just moves, but maybe if you just want to try something else or just
Mm-hmm.
have new
Yeah.
relationships. It's an
Yeah.
amazing experience. Definitely.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of people over the course of this year, who have kind of followed some of my posts and or just chatted with me or something. But I think there's a groundswell actually of people that are looking to shift careers,
Yeah.
or shift companies or do some sort of kind of, yeah, some of the soul searching and wanting to do things that feel better, more fulfilling, and this kind of it. So I think there's a lot of people that are in that boat. So this is a great way to go about it, especially for people that are, in a career, have a certain level of success or accustomed to, and it feels, too high stakes to then just leave it to go do something that's unknown. It's a good way to kind of ease into it is to look for volunteer opportunities to kind of test the waters. Can be good too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that
So
will, yeah,
can I
sorry,
ask one
sorry.
question? I'm just curious because
Yeah.
I think I know the answer, but I maybe am wrong. So I want to ask you. One last thing I always also try to pay attention to or ask myself is like, yeah, what did I learn this year? Specifically, what did I learn about myself this year? So I'm curious for you. Is there something that you learned about yourself this year? It may be already what you alluded to about kind of taking time to step back, etc. So I don't know if it's that or something else. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I guess I just did.
No.
So is there anything that you kind of learned about yourself this year, or what did you learn about yourself this year?
I know what I learned. I'm why I'm hesitating is not even hesitating. Is it maybe that it's a confirmation or just learning? I think it's more of a
Mm,
confirmation. It's
mm,
trust your gut or instinct, however you want to call
mm,
it.
mm, mm,
Because and this kept on happening over the years, and especially having my own business and not, but the more you do it, the better you get at it, and you just need to be tuned with it, because
mm,
otherwise you're going to force things and you're getting to that you just do things automatically, and then I
mm,
think the rupture or the disconnect, the falling out of love, or the not syncing with your business, or however you want to call it, will happen. But the moment you stop and you actually, okay, what's happening, what does my gut feeling tells me, then you know what to do. And all
mm,
the everything that happened was instinct. Like, it's not only instinct, because your instinct and gut feeling is based on your experience, your knowledge, the relationship you build, the experiences you had. So I'm not talking about something necessarily spiritual, but it's everything is based on your experience and what you did. But sometimes we
mm,
just do things automatically without really checking in with us and seeing what we really want. Where do we stand on
mm-hmm,
this one? We tend to do what
mm-hmm.
the society we kind of
Yep.
expect from us or things like that. But sometimes
Mm-hmm,
what we really want to do is slightly different. Um, like everybody was expecting the awareness to have so many editions, and I said no, and actually was a very good thing at that point, because that gave us the space to how can we make it better. And
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's good.
last last event was a proof of that. And this is a very small example. The same with the base conference. We stop a little bit and we are relaunching it next year. So sometimes you just need to stop, because there are
Mm.
too many things. And when there are too many things, you'll not be able to do any of them at the high quality
Wow.
that you want.
Yep. Yep. Sure.
So
By the way, really great word, rupture. Like extra points for using that word.
thank you.
Yeah, that was a good one. I'm like, ooh, that's a very tactile word. So just had to underscore that. I would have highlighted if I was reading it. I would have highlighted. Good use of word there. Cool,
How
cool.
about you? What did you learn?
Uh, Simple. I learned that building relationships is still my strength. It's still my go-to, the thing that I love most. It still is. So I wasn't sure coming here, and like I feel like, yeah, like a whole new person now. My whole life has changed. But turns out my core is still the same, and that's still my thing, even here.
I
People
saw
are
you in
still people.
action at the conference. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
part of you. You can't take it out. It's who you are,
yeah,
definitely.
I really enjoy that. So, Yeah, but anyhow, so thanks for having this chat about kind of our years in review. I do think it's nice to have this conversation with somebody else, and then whoever else
And the
happens to be
audience,
like
yeah.
listening in. Yeah, yeah. But like to your point earlier, I hope people also, there's something that we said that's useful or gives them an idea about something, or if nothing else, get started doing it if you don't already, etc. But
And
yeah,
start
so
small.
this was
Don't put pressure
start
on you,
small.
on
Yeah,
oneself. Just
yeah.
start
So.
wherever you feel you are and just move from
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, so I feel like that's a wrap on 19. So year in review.
Thank you for tuning in, and see you on episode 20. I can't believe
And
20. I love round numbers.
I know. And Happy New Year, by the way, if you're
Happy New
listening
Year,
to this.
everyone.
Yeah, Happy New Year. And hopefully it will be a happy new year. We'll see. But stay tuned for that. Cheers.
See you soon.